Almost 7 decades have passed since Weston Price began his monumental studies of isolated primitive peoples, studies that led to the publication of this volume, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. In the intervening period, this work, with its fascinating text and unforgettable photographs, has inspired countless readers, some of whom used Price's findings as a springboard for future research, while others applied the principles he discovered to the everyday nourishment of healthy families. Weston Price's search for isolated so-called primitive groups living entirely on indigenous foods took him to remote Swiss villages, windswept islands off the coast of Scotland, and idyllic South Sea islands. He visited Eskimos in Alaska, traditional American Indians, African tribes, and Australian Aborigines. Price's research proved conclusively that dental decay is caused primarily by nutritional deficiencies, and that those conditions that promote decay also promote disease. Price found 14 tribal diets that, although radically different, provided most complete immunity to tooth decay and resistance to illness. Contact with civilization, followed by an adoption of what Price termed the displacing foods of modern commerce, was disastrous for all groups studied. Rampant dental caries was followed by progressive facial deformities in children born to parents consuming refined and devitalized foods. These changes consisted of narrowed facial structure and dental arches, along with crowded teeth, birth defects, and increased susceptibility to infectious and chronic disease. Significantly, when some natives returned to their traditional diets, open cavities ceased progressing, and children now conceived and born once again had perfect dental arches and no tooth decay. The diets of the healthy primitives Price studied were diverse. Some were based on seafoods, some on domesticated animals, some on game, and some on dairy products. Some contained almost no plant foods, while others contained a variety of fruits, vegetables, grains, and legumes. In some, mostly cooked foods were eaten, while in others, many foods, including animal foods, were eaten raw. However, these diets shared several underlying characteristics. None contained any refined or devitalized foods, such as white sugar and flour, canned foods, pasteurized or skimmed milk, and hydrogenated vegetable oils. All the diets contained some form of quality animal proteins and animal fats from animals eating the foods they would naturally find in nature. Price analyzed the primitive diets and found that all contained at least 4 times the quantity of minerals and water-soluble vitamins of the American diet of his day. Even more startling was the discovery that these diets contained at least 10 times the amount of fat-soluble vitamins found in animal fats, including vitamin A, vitamin D, and the Price factor, or activator X, discovered by Dr. Price. Price considered these fat-soluble vitamins to be the key component of healthy diets. He called these nutrients activators, or catalysts, upon which the assimilation of all the other nutrients in our food, protein, minerals, and water-soluble vitamins, depends. It is possible to starve for minerals that are abundant in the foods eaten because they cannot be utilized without an adequate quantity of the fat-soluble activators. The amounts of nutrients utilized depend directly on the presence of other substances, particularly the fat-soluble vitamins. It is at this point, probably, that the greatest breakdown in our modern diet takes place, namely in the ingestion and utilization of adequate amounts of these special activating substances, including the vitamins needed for rendering the minerals in our food available to the human system. The foods that supplied the vital fat-soluble activators included butterfat, marine oils, organ meats, fish and shellfish, eggs, and animal tallows, most of which our modern pundits of diet and nutrition have unfairly condemned as unhealthful, Price factor, or activator X, an extremely powerful catalyst to mineral absorption, occurred in foods considered sacred to the various primitive groups: liver and other organ meats, fish liver oils, fish eggs, and butter from cows eating rapidly growing grass from spring and fall pasturage. These valuable foodstuffs have almost completely disappeared from the American food supply. At the same time, the toll of suffering and economic hardship engendered by our modern civilized diseases increases relentlessly. Weston Price noted that all the groups he studied provided special foods to prospective parents, to both mother and father after conception and to women during their pregnancy, as well as to growing children. They practiced spacing of children so that mothers could replenish nutrient stores for subsequent children. Above all, they took care to impart their nutritional wisdom to the young, thereby ensuring the health of future generations. Such wisdom stands in sharp contrast to the practices of modern parents who approach childbearing with insouciance and who indulge their children in refined and highly sweetened foods from infancy. The implication of the Price research is profound. If civilized man is to survive, he must somehow incorporate the fundamentals of primitive nutritional wisdom into his modern lifestyle. He must turn his back on the allure of civilized foodstuffs that line his supermarket shelves and return to the whole, nutrient-dense foods of his ancestors. He must restore the soil to health through non-toxic and biological farming methods. He must repair that greatest breakdown in our modern civilized diet, which is the gradual replacement of foods rich in fat-soluble activators with substitutes and imitations compounded of vegetable oils, fillers, stabilizers, and additives.